levels of organization and ways in which we can classify really small components of living things, taking it up to the largest possible level. So we're going to review that with this PowerPoint. On the chemical level, the smallest possible thing is the atom. And the atom is the smallest unit of any element. And you'll learn more about atoms in a module later on this semester. So you could have an atom of carbon, or an atom of hydrogen, or an atom of potassium, for example. Molecules are formed when two or more atoms join together. So these are several different molecules, a carbohydrate, a protein, this is a fat. You don't have to remember that for right now. An example of a molecule that you're probably more familiar with is water. So water would be 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen atoms coming together forming a water molecule. If we build on the molecule, we have the organelle. And organelles are compartments within cells. So organelles, their job within the cell is to create different molecules like a carbohydrate or a fat or a protein. And they each work at like little factories. And we'll learn more about organelles later on this semester as well. The next level up is the cellular level. On the cellular level, we have the cell. The cell is the smallest unit that can reproduce and live on its own. And there are some organisms that are made up of a single cell, and then there are other organisms like us that are made up of trillions and trillions of cells. So this picture here is just a representation of an animal cell. Cells come together to create tissues, and that's the next level of organization. On the tissue level, we have a group of cells interacting and working together for a specialized task. So an example of a tissue is bone tissue. It makes up your bones and allows you to move. Another example of a tissue would be muscle tissue, right? It attaches to your bone, gives you support and structure and strength to allow that movement to occur. We'll talk more about tissues at the end of the semester. Tissues come together and work in groups to create organs. So an organ is just a structural unit made up of 2 or more tissues. So here is an eye. Another example of an organ would be your heart or your stomach. And usually within an organ, you're going to have tissues that cover, you're going to have some sort of muscle tissue for support, you're going to have connective tissue to pull everything together as well. On the organ system level, these are multiple organs that are working together, both physically and chemically. And the organ system that you're probably most familiar with would be your digestive system, right? Your digestive system includes your salivary glands, it includes your stomach, your esophagus, your liver, your gallbladder, your small and large intestines. And sure, they're all individual organs, but when they work together in that organ system, then they create a bigger functioning unit. Other examples of organ systems would be your respiratory system, your circulatory system, your sensory systems. And then when we put all the organ systems together, we come up with an organism. And here we have a parrotfish. Inside that parrotfish, though we can't see it, it has a digestive system, a circulatory system, a respiratory system. So this is our largest organismal level. However, we can still talk about many organisms and how they interact together, and that's the population level. So a population is a group of individuals of the same species occupying the same area. And so here we see a school of fish, many fish of the same species that are interacting in a given area. The next level up would be the species level. And a species level would be all the populations of that specific organism. So this would be all the populations of the parrotfish all over the entire world. So off all the different coasts and all the different oceans, that would make up the species. And one other characteristic that's important with the species is the fact that they can reproduce and create genetically viable offspring. A community are all the populations of all the species in the same area. So here we see a coral reef community, and the parrotfish would inhabit this area, but also there would be other fish species, maybe an angelfish or a butterfly fish. There might be some eels or sharks. There's also going to be the corals. So these are all of the populations in one given area and how they interact together. The highest level of organization is the ecosystem. When we get to the ecosystem level, not only are we talking about the biological organisms, the living things, but we're also talking about the abiotic or the non-living. So this is going to be how the community, all the living things, interacts with its physical environment. So again, we're going to be taking into account the temperature, the type of water, the amount of rainfall that area might get. So that all of those other factors play in on the ecosystem level.